promised that this dangerous corridor would be completed. Those promises have gone unfulfilled, and families are paying for that inaction with their lives. I have written to Premier Ford urging him to finally deliver on this long overdue commitment. The four-laning of Highway 69 is, in every way, a matter of life and death. Vinod and Shilpa Patel deserve to come home. Their families deserve better. Every driver on that road deserves better. Mr. Speaker, I call on the Government of Ontario to act before another family is torn apart on a highway that should have been made safe years ago. Thank you.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are feeling the pressure every time they pull up to the pump, and they are not getting the relief that they were promised. The Prime Minister claims affordability is a priority, but his plan only scraps a fraction of fuel taxes for a fraction of the year, leaving Canadians still paying almost 15% more than the Americans because of high taxes and a weak dollar. In Newfoundland and Labrador, families are already stretched thin, paying more at the pump, more for groceries, and more to heat their homes. Conservatives are calling for real relief, removing federal gas and diesel taxes for the rest of the year, including the GST on fuel. That means up to 25 cents per litre in savings, about $20 every time a family fills up, and over $1,200 this year, at a time when Statistics Canada reports the worst food inflation in the G7. Canadians should not have to choose between buying groceries and filling their tanks. Conservatives will keep fighting to lower costs and deliver the real results Canadians are still waiting for.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, we are proudly celebrating 80 years of French language higher education in northwestern New Brunswick. The Udis brothers founded the Collège Saint-Louis in 1946, then the Saint-Joseph congregation founded Maillet College in 1949, and later they would become the campus of Edmundston of the University of Moncton. This establishment has been a key part of our regional development and the cultural, social, and economic vitality of our Francophone, Acadian, and Bayonne communities. Over the decades, many generations of students were trained there, and cutting-edge research takes place there as well. For this 80th anniversary, the Association of the Alumni of Saint-Louis Maillet are sponsoring a series of activities. I would like to congratulate everyone who has contributed to shaping this institution, and I hope that the University of Moncton Edmundston campus will continue to enjoy a great deal of success. I would just like to remind members that we should keep the volume down.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister needs to understand that the public purse is not his personal travel rewards card. I know he likes to fly, but there are no Aeroplan points when the government spends billions of dollars that it does not have. There is no free checked bag for the next generation. There's no lounge access for taxpayers, and there's definitely no complimentary upgrade when the country is stuck at the back of the plane with a maxed out credit card. Since taking office, this Prime Minister has added $90 billion in net new spending, and the cost of running government is up 9% in under a year. Now the Liberals are spending more to service our national debt than the government collects in the GST, or as it should soon be called, the debt servicing tax. That should set off alarm bells for everyone in our country, and anyone who thinks this can continue should give their head a shake. When interest payments eat up more of the budget, there is less money for healthcare, for defense, for infrastructure. Canadians don't need a Prime Minister asking for a higher credit limit. They need a government that remembers taxpayers are the one footing the bill.
The honourable member for Burlington.
Today we welcome to Parliament Hill children and youth from across Canada, including members of the Young Canadians Parliament, who are here to deliver a simple and urgent message. Time is up on online harms. They are joined by parents whose lived experience gives this call for action profound urgency, and who are standing up to protect other children from similar harm. Together, they are part of the growing Countdown for Kids movement, led by Children's First Canada, reminding us that children have waited years for online safety legislation at the cost of real and preventable harm. As a parent and someone who's fought hard for children's rights in Canada, I look forward to the government presenting legislation on online harms and for this House to finally put the safety of our kids first and pass it quickly. Mr. Speaker, these children are asking for us to act now, to put their safety first, to work together, and to show that protecting children is never optional. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Here's a question for the Prime Minister. According to the Journal de Montréal, as this Liberal Prime Minister continues to pay this country's bills on credit card. Meanwhile, half of Quebecers over 50 years old fear not having enough money for their retirement. Also, 2 times more Quebecers now have to go back to work after retirement in order to make ends meet. This is after 10 years of inflationary deficits and taxes, yet this Prime Minister continues to increase spending. Will he stop the inflationary spending, or does he want to continue to put this onto seniors and pay on credit card? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, I know it's Monday and the Leader of the Opposition doesn't have any good news, but we, Mr. Speaker, we have good news this morning. Canada's first sovereign fund. A strong plan for a strong Canada, a strong fund that will allow us to create shared collective wealth. It will also allow us to build great major projects from coast to coast to coast. This fund will have us shine among all G7 countries, Mr. Speaker. Let's all celebrate Canada, a strong fund for a strong Canada. A sovereign fund without funds, though, because there's no funds. There's just debt. It's a budget on credit. More debt, more costs, more inflation, more taxes, more of the same. This Prime Minister is just yet another Liberal. This Prime Minister inherited a terrible deficit of $31 billion from Justin Trudeau. Then he added another $90 billion in inflationary spending. Question. Tomorrow, will he reduce the deficit, or will he put this all on Canadians' credit cards and increase the cost of living even further? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I have even more good news for the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, recently, the International Monetary Fund said that Canada is the G7 country with the second highest economic growth in the G7, and our growth is twice as fast as Germany's. Almost 3 times faster than Italy's economic growth, Mr. Speaker. This morning, we're announcing a sovereign fund, Mr. Speaker, to allow Canadians from coast to coast of this huge country to build this country up with us, to create collective wealth and to build huge projects. Let's celebrate that.
More costs, more taxes. This Prime Minister is just another Liberal. This Liberal government doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, and the previous Prime Minister left behind an outrageous $31 billion deficit for this fiscal year. Since that time, the new Liberal Prime Minister has been spending at even higher rates and putting it on the national credit card. That means the bankers make more and Canadian workers and seniors keep less. Will the Prime Minister at least cap the deficit at Trudeau's $31 billion, or will he break through that limit and put it on the credit card?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition is looking for good news. Well, I have good news, Mr. Speaker. He'll have to update his QP cards because, Mr. Speaker, we announced the first Canadian Sovereign Wealth Fund, Mr. Speaker. A fund to build Canada strong, a fund that will allow Canadians to build this country like never before, to invest in projects across this country, to allow Canadians to invest alongside the government, to make sure that we all benefit. Mr. Speaker, this is the essence of a Canada for all. We're building together, we'll benefit together. Mr. Speaker, let's build Canada strong together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The question was for the Prime Minister, who's again in hiding, and instead what we got is a man talking about a sovereign.
I mean, I hope that I mean, that's I don't know if it's metaphorical. If it is, it's a bit of a stretch. But I just want to warn the honourable member who knows better to avoid those kinds of allusions. He may continue.
Mr. Speaker, you need to actually have wealth for a sovereign wealth fund. What this Liberal Prime Minister is proposing to do is use the credit card in order to take $25 billion and put it into a Liberal slush fund, Mr. Speaker. This after the Liberal government doubled the debt and gave us the worst inflation in 40 years. This Prime Minister is spending more taxes, more costs, more of the same. Will he put it all on the nation's credit card again tomorrow?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, let me help the Leader of the Opposition. After all, it's Monday. Let me help him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the International Monetary Fund just said last week that Canada has the strongest fiscal position of the G7. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian economy has the second fastest growth in the G7, growing almost twice as the one in Germany, almost twice as much as Japan, almost 3 times as our colleagues in Italy, Mr. Speaker. Canadian economy is strong, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong together. We're going to have our Canada Strong Fund. Canadians will benefit.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister can't answer questions in the House of Commons because he's been wrong on every single major economic issue of our time. And the results are what Canadians are paying for now. More costs, more debt, more taxes, more of the same. In fact, this Prime Minister has given Canada the worst food inflation in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the second highest unemployment in the G7. And tomorrow, he intends to put it all on the national credit card. Trudeau had a $31 billion deficit left over for this year. Will he break through that limit and put that on the national credit card as well?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, inflation has been in the Bank of Canada's target zone and has been for some time, but we are continuously intrigued by this notion about inflationary spending. So we just want to ask and have him answer with absolute clarity, the Leader of the Opposition. Is it the Canada Child Benefit that is inflationary? Is it the Canada Disability Benefit? Is it the Canadian Dental Care Plan? Is it the Groceries and Essentials Benefit? Is it Old Age Security? Exactly what is inflationary spending in the eyes of the Leader of the Opposition?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I'm glad he asked because I got some direct answers. This is how you answer a question. What is inflationary spending? $90 billion for the wasteful Alto project. $1 billion for a gun grab that the public safety minister admits will not stop crime. $20 billion, that's double, for consultants. 7% increase in the spending on the national bureaucracy. Over $1 billion in handouts to fake and phony refugees. A 100% increase in spending on corporate welfare. It's all inflationary spending. Will they stop putting it on the national credit card and get rid of it instead?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
In the eyes of Mr. Speaker, in the
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Even this Leader of the Opposition, it's pretty hard to say that money that hasn't been spent yet is inflationary.
Right.
We have not yet, although we will be building high-speed rail as part of our plan to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. But let me keep going on the list. The Canada Workers Benefit, is that inflationary spending? Is it the National School Food Program? Is it Canada Student Loans? What exactly, in the eyes of the Leader of the Opposition, is inflationary spending? Will he
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is not getting any breaks from the Trump administration and the tariff crisis. What's more, tomorrow is his one-year Prime Minister-versary, but the situation is worse than when he first took office. The new U.S. tariff calculations are a direct attack on our economy. By taxing all products containing steel or aluminum at their full value, Washington is disproportionately targeting Quebec and our manufacturing SMEs. Our workers and businesses can no longer afford to wait for a savior. When will there be a wage subsidy to protect them from layoffs? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague is right about something. We totally disagree with the White House's new interpretation of tariffs and calculations. We've had many conversations with the manufacturing industry in Quebec and across the country, and that's exactly why we will be there to help our business leaders and workers throughout the country. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, since the Prime Minister's election a year ago, as of tomorrow, the situation with Donald Trump has not improved. In fact, it has gotten worse. And that is why tomorrow the Prime Minister must finally step in to help Quebec's economy. He has been making empty promises about getting results for Quebec's economy for a year now. We need a wage subsidy to prevent a wave of layoffs. We must support our forestry industry in the face of illegal U.S. tariffs. We must get back to reforming employment insurance. And the list of action we need to take goes on. Tomorrow, will the Prime Minister finally seize the opportunity? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, Quebec's Premier is in Washington today. We will, of course, work with her, knowing that she will stand up for Quebec's workers and businesses. I had the opportunity to discuss this with her, as did the Prime Minister. We're there for businesses. We already have various ways of supporting investments in our businesses, but we're going to do even more, and I'll be very happy to work with my colleague to defend Quebec's workers. Thank you.
Joliette-Manawan.
The Honourable Member for Joliette-Manawan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We need to save jobs. It's time for Ottawa to wake up to how serious the situation is with the new tariff calculations. You know, South Shore Furniture this morning announced that it's closing, renouncing the loss of 126 jobs in Sainte-Croix and Coaticook. In Joliette, the small business Liard Industrie has to pay 5 times more than before in unfair tariffs. ADF in Terrebonne, Max Atlas in Saint-Jean-Richelieu, everyone is struggling in all of the regions. Will Quebec tomorrow announce a wage subsidy to prevent layoffs? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had a call with the president of ADF in Terrebonne and also with PRP and many businesses. We have a lot of information about what businesses are experiencing right now. We understand that the new tariff calculations have negative consequences for our businesses and our workers. We've been there for them since the beginning of the tariff war. We're still here, and we will be there for them tomorrow, too. Thank you.
The minister took office. He pledged to spend less than Justin Trudeau. Instead, he added $90 billion of net new spending, 2/3 of that on day-to-day operation. Bureaucracy up 7%, operating costs up 9%, all higher than his promised savings. He's putting the nation's finances on a credit card and pretending all of that is normal. So will the Prime Minister commit today that his deficit will not exceed the already excessive $31 billion Justin Trudeau left behind, or has he simply grabbed Trudeau's credit card and asked for a higher limit?
Yeah. Wow. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, that leader talks about presence in the House. He's been here for 22 years and has produced nothing. Let's look at some economic facts. Best fiscal position in the G7. Second fastest growing economy in the G7. Best net debt to GDP in the G7. Wages are outpacing inflation. Mr. Speaker, it's time for that leader and that party to stop the bizarre press conferences, stop the podcast tours, help us build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, nobody thought it was possible to outspend Justin Trudeau, and here we are with the same cast of characters sitting in the exact same seats saying the same thing. He doubled last year's deficit and sent the bill to Canadian kitchen tables, the worst grocery prices, the highest household debt, the worst housing costs in the G7. Those are the actual facts. When Liberals doubled the debt, they doubled the food bank lineups and they doubled the rent, passing on the balance from the credit card onto every Canadian family. So will the Prime Minister stop the credit card budgeting, or does he think Canadians can also just apply for a higher limit?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
All across Canada, Canadians have been pulling together to make sure that we build Canada strong. I would challenge the member from the opposite party to ask herself, why is it she's voting against kids getting food in school? Why is it she's voting against affordable childcare? Why does she vote against skilled tradespeople having the opportunity to fill their apprenticeship and actually get those great jobs? Why is she voting against investments in infrastructure, in housing, in water? Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter what solution we propose. Those guys are against Canada and Canadians.
Let's try not to impugn the motives more than. Anyway, the honourable member for Calgary East.
The only surplus his Prime Minister knows is the one in his offshore tax haven. The guy literally doubled Trudeau's deficit and gave Canadians the worst food inflation in the G7 and the worst household debt in the G7. And tomorrow he's going to table another costly credit card budget, put it on the national credit card, all on the backs of Canadians. So will this Prime Minister end his credit card budgeting so Canadians can finally afford to live?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, well, they're complaining. This is what we're doing. We're getting things built. On Friday, we announced the $4.4 billion expansion of the Sunrise Pipeline project. That generates $3.3 billion in annual GDP. It adds 2,500 construction jobs this summer. It adds $700 million in tax revenue to BC and the federal government to build Canada strong. That's what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
The only thing these guys have built so far is literally 12 bureaucracies, nothing else. And this Prime Minister said he would spend less. And after a year after that, he's increased bureaucracy, he's increased consultants, and he's increased the deficit. All on the national credit card, all on the backs of Canadians. Once again, will they end their credit card budgeting so Canadians can finally afford to live?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think he heard me. $3.3 billion in annual GDP, 2,500 new jobs, $700 million in new tax revenues. These guys just can't see something good when it's ready to hit them right between the eyes.
The honourable member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the cost of government drives up the cost of living. The more the government spends, the more things cost. Since 2015, the Liberals have doubled the debt while doubling housing costs and food bank lineups. And this Prime Minister doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit, proving that he's just another Liberal. Can he commit that tomorrow's deficit announcement will not be higher than the already reckless, inflationary $31 billion deficit that Justin Trudeau left behind? Yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, the building trades are in town this week, and I'm excited to talk about our plan to build. We're building big, we're building bold, we're building across this country. From BC to Newfoundland, we're going to be creating good jobs in the skilled trades, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, Mr. Speaker. We're building. It's time to invest. When will they get on board? Probably never.
The honourable member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this government inherited a balanced budget and then spent the last 10 years borrowing, spending, squandering, and taxing hundreds of billions of dollars while homeownership slipped out of reach for the middle class and millions more can't afford groceries. For the last 10 years, Canada should have been building pipelines, houses, ports, and roads, but these Liberals built bureaucracies, slush funds, and debt repayments. So again, will the deficit exceed $31 billion, yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
It's the time to invest, and that's what we're doing. We're building big. But listen, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can't claim they care about affordability while fighting it at every turn. They voted against affordable housing. They voted against childcare. They voted against dental care, Mr. Speaker. They voted against support for families. They can't have it both ways.
You're here.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton South East.
Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister took office, the projected deficit was $31 billion. He promised to spend less. Instead, he spent more. He piled on $90 billion in new spending, not on results, but on bigger government. Bureaucracy is up, costs are up, and Canadians are paying the price. Will the Prime Minister commit today that his deficit will not exceed the already outrageous $31 billion left behind by his predecessor? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Women and Gender Equality.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is not business as usual for our economy, so let's stick to the facts. Since September, Canada's created over 94,000 jobs, growth and strong growth right across the country. Canada now has the highest employment rate compared to the United States. This is driven predominantly by women entering the force and joining because of our strong policies, Mr. Speaker. Wages are up by 4.7%, faster than inflation, meaning more Canadians are keeping more of what they earn, Mr. Speaker. That is how we're taking care of Canadians and growing Canada strong.
Nice. L'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Natural Resources confirmed last week that he wants to invest $10 billion of public money in a new dirty oil pipeline. That's $10 billion in public money on top of the $34 billion we already paid for the Trans Mountain pipeline. Today, the Liberals are announcing that they will create a sovereign wealth fund, yet another federal scheme to invest public funds in the energy sector, namely in pipelines. Is there any limit to the debt that Liberals are willing to saddle Quebecers with in order to prop up oil and gas companies? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, unlike what the Bloc is claiming, we will build in all of Canada's regions. That's why we are developing our ports like Contrecoeur, like the Port of Quebec. There was an announcement about that on Friday. We will invest in mines and in the mining sector too. And unlike what the member for Mirabel says, we will invest in regions like the Laurentians. The upper and lower Laurentians will work with us and invest to build technology, for instance, and to diversify the economy. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are headed straight for disaster in the fight against climate change. They're all drill, baby, drill. They've just approved Enbridge's Sunrise Gas Pipeline project, yet another pipeline after Trans Mountain, after Coastal GasLink, and after so many others. And it doesn't end there. The Liberals want to build at least one more oil pipeline in the West on top of Keystone. Not even Stephen Harper's Conservatives ever went this far in ignoring the fight against climate change. And they don't even believe in climate change. Are there any Liberals left with an environmental conscience? And if so, when will they speak up? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I just attended the G7 Environment Ministers meeting. I met with environment ministers and environment actors from all over the world. What I heard is that when the world looks at Canada, they see that we are a leader in the work we're doing on methane, in the work we're doing on renewable energy. He should be proud of Canada's position in the world in the fight against climate change. We continue to fight, and I hope that he will work with us and support us in that. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Fjord. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter who the Liberal Prime Minister is, it's always the same old story. While this government continues to drive up the debt, raise costs, and increase taxes, retirees are struggling to find decent housing. According to a Journal de Montréal poll published this weekend, over half of Quebecers over 50 fear that they won't have enough money when they retire. When is the Prime Minister going to stop using our credit card so that Canadians can finally make ends meet? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Well, Mr. Speaker, now we've really heard it all. The Conservatives are rising in this place, saying they're defending seniors. They're the ones who brought the retirement age from 67 to 65, plunging hundreds of seniors into financially vulnerable situations. So it's really, truly shocking to see them rise, hand on heart, saying they stand for seniors. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will always work for seniors. We will always work to build a strong economy that benefits everyone, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, a recent survey revealed an alarming truth. In the Journal de Montréal, they revealed that over half of Quebecers aged 50 and up are worried about running out of money when they retire. This is the case for Joanne Boissonneau, who told Le Journal de Montréal that after having worked her whole life, she must now get by on $1,960 a month, an amount that is no longer enough to live with dignity. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister continues to use his credit card to balloon his deficits. Seniors are the ones paying the price, especially at the grocery store. When will the Prime Minister finally stop passing irresponsible budgets so the Canadians can make ends meet, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for the question. On this side of the House, we understand that many challenges are ongoing that Canadians have to deal with, and that has an impact on their ability to deal with the cost of living. On this side of the House, though, we have solutions to give purchasing power back to Canadians directly. We are also working to create jobs so that in the long term, we can be able to build Canada strong for the long term, in addition to reacting in the short term. That's our plan, and we would like colleagues to work with us on that. The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Comiscomic-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, seniors are saying that they can't make ends meet. They have to work past age 65 just to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, it's unbelievable. Groceries, rent, gas, everything's going up, and many now have to count every penny after spending their whole lives working. Some of them even have to go back to work, find a second career. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister continues to spend on Canada's credit card as if it was a limitless credit card. So here's my simple question. When will the Prime Minister stop spending recklessly so that he can finally help seniors? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague said, we're the ones who brought down the retirement age. They wanted to increase it. We're here for Canadians. We support Canadians with the grocery benefit, for instance, that will support 12 million Canadians who need that support right now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, it's sad to see that more than half of Quebecers 50 years and above fear that they won't have enough money for their retirement. That's what we saw in the Journal de Montréal this weekend. If the seniors can't manage, there's more debt, more costs, more taxes, and Canadians have to pay the bill for this Prime Minister's credit card. Seniors have built our country, and this is how they're thanking them. My question is simple. Will the Prime Minister stop digging our seniors in an increasing amount of debt, yes or no? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, just let me remind him that according to the IMF, Canada has the best fiscal position in the G7 and the second fastest growth. Now, it's always strange to see them rise and defend seniors because they voted against things to help them. 32,000 seniors in his riding are benefiting from this, from our benefits, and they voted against them. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière, Mr. Speaker. The Journal de Montréal has said that seniors are the Liberal government's forgotten people. With all the deficit spending in the budget, food inflation is rising much faster than OAS payments. This means that 68-year-old seniors are forced to work just to pay their mortgage. Mr. Speaker, while our seniors are struggling to make ends meet, this Prime Minister seems more interested in showing off his resume to the world. When will this Prime Minister decide to work to help Canadian seniors make ends meet? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, we are here for our seniors, and that's why with every new economic statement, we have measures to protect them. We have been in favor of bringing down the retirement age to 65 years of age, even though my colleague voted against it. And we're also here in various ways for them. We're supporting them against food inflation because seniors are affected by food inflation. My colleague is very kind, and we have a really good relationship, and I'm happy to work with him to help solve the economic issues of our seniors.
Mr. Burnaby Melodville.
Mr. Speaker, premiers and MPs from all stripes agree the Sunrise expansion is a major step forward. It will create good jobs, strengthen Canada's energy security, and see 38 First Nations acquire equity stakes in the project, advancing economic reconciliation while helping us reach new markets. Can the Minister speak to why this project is so important for Canadians?
Good question. Of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his excellent question. The Sunrise project is about building Canada stronger. It's about $4 billion in new investment into our economy. It's about $3.3 billion in annual GDP. It's about 2,500 new construction jobs starting this summer. And as he said, it's about empowering 38 First Nations to participate in economic reconciliation. Mr. Speaker, this is a win for everyone in Canada.
Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, my neighbours in Oshawa are already struggling with the high cost of living, yet this Prime Minister is doubling down on the same old reckless Liberal spending. The deficit has ballooned, and the parliamentary budget officer that this government silenced has said 2/3 of new spending is going to day-to-day operations and not real investment. Deficits mean inflation today and higher taxes tomorrow. Will the Prime Minister stop the costly credit cards budgeting and commit to capping this year's deficit at $31 billion?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that the Conservatives not only don't want to take care of people, but they also don't understand what an investment is. We're talking about a party here that voted against dental care for children and for seniors, a group of people that voted against supporting kids just having a healthy lunch in school. We're talking about a party that voted against childcare so that parents could get back to work earlier and supply for their family, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives prove time and time again they have no interest in supporting Canadians, and they still don't understand what an investment in Canadians actually means.
Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, we know what the state of the country is when Conservatives are asking this Liberal Prime Minister to do as good of a job as Trudeau and keep the budget down to his level. Conservatives believe in responsible investment that delivers results for Canadians, not reckless spending that drives up inflation and taxes. Exactly right. Families in Oshawa are struggling. They're working hard but making tough choices at the grocery store and at the pump. Liberal government has not made life more affordable for them. So if the Prime Minister truly believes this level of spending is justified, can he explain to families in Oshawa exactly when they will see the prices lowered and relieved?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives pretend to be champions of affordability, but they never get into the fight. Even worse, they vote against every measure to help families. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. They are against it. We build affordable homes. They're against it. We introduced the groceries and food essentials that will put $1,900 into the pockets of a family of four. They are against it. Mr. Speaker, we are fighting for jobs and affordability for Canadians. All they do is run down the economy in the middle of a trade war. They should get on board and start building.
Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
There used to be a political consensus in this country, Mr. Speaker, that government, like the rest of us, had to live within our means. A shared understanding that money doesn't grow on trees and eventually all bills come due. Liberals shattered that consensus, borrowing more money over the past 10 years than every other government in the history of our country combined. Now, this Prime Minister promised to do things differently. Instead, he has somehow managed to spend and borrow even more. When will this Prime Minister end his costly credit card budgets and stop leaving future generations with the bill?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, one thing that our Prime Minister was elected to do was to build an economy that's the strongest in the G7. We're going to build that at home and abroad. At home, we've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We launched a groceries and essentials benefit. We just paused the excise federal tax on gas. Abroad, our Prime Minister and our Trade Minister are signing deals worldwide for billions of dollars to create thousands of jobs. On this side of the House, we are focused on building the strongest, most resilient economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
more spending, more debt. That seems to be the Liberal solution to every problem that they create, forever increasing the size of government and using Canada's credit card to foot the bill. But all of this deficit spending comes with an inflationary cost. The worst grocery inflation in all of the G7, the worst household debt in all of the G7, and the worst housing costs. When will this Prime Minister realize that more spending, more debt, and more government isn't the solution to Canada's economic problems? They are the problem.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of building, we are building big. The Port of Montreal expansion means over 8,000 construction jobs and over 1,000 permanent jobs. The Darlington nuclear plant means 18,000 good-paying and clean power for generations in Ontario. LNG Canada in BC means tens of thousands of jobs in Canadian energy reaching new global market. That's cranes in the ground, paychecks in the pocket, and Canada building big. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the federal debt is now over $1.4 trillion. That means each Canadian is now paying an average of almost $2,000 per year on interest on government debt alone. And Liberals call that affordability. Thank you, central bankers. These deficits are about wealth transfer, nothing less. The more the Liberal government increases the debt, the higher inflation will rise and the lower spending power will result. Canadians pay more and get less. When will Liberals understand who they work for? International bankers or the Canadian taxpayer?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, here's what the central bankers know. Canada has the strongest economy in the G7. We have the highest debt rating of any country in the world, Mr. Speaker. They should learn how to balance books.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues across the way love to talk about how Canada excels. Well, it excels in a few things. Number one, the highest housing cost in the G7, the highest food inflation in the G7. Affordability out the window with this Liberal government. Amongst G7 countries, we're amongst the worst as far as our results for Canadians go. A decade of failed Liberal policies has left Canadians falling behind in so many metrics. Fiscal anchors have become optional. Restraint has vanished. The government now sees more interest in testing how much they can expand our debt than actually delivering for Canadians. When will they actually stop overspending and deliver?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I'll help the member opposite understand what we're good at. We're good at building. How about the Taylor to Gordondale pipeline? How about the next-gen uranium mine? How about the Foran copper mine? How about the Voisey's Bay mine? How about the Darlington nuclear reactor? How about the new wind farm in Nova Scotia? Mr. Speaker, we know how to build. They know how to complain.
The Honourable Member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Well, despite promising to spend less, the Prime Minister has instead continued the Liberal practice of credit card budgeting. He's added $90 billion in new spending above the previous levels. And this costly approach has left Canada with the worst grocery inflation, the worst household debt, the worst housing crisis, and the second highest unemployment in the G7. The Prime Minister runs up deficits, and Canadians, they're the ones who pay the price. Yes. Will he end his credit card budgeting so Canadians can actually afford to live?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to point out, Mr. Speaker, again, from Saskatchewan's perspective, 10 long years. 14 members, 10 long years, and nothing to show for it. Mr. Speaker, we signed a uranium deal with India, Mr. Speaker. Canola sales are improving and moving to China, Mr. Speaker. We're building mines, we're building opportunity. Saskatchewan is finally here in Ottawa, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, you know what? He's right. From the Saskatchewan perspective, it has been a long 10 years. 1 year ago, this Prime Minister Minister made big promises to the Canadians, but the results tell a different story. More spending, more deficit, and more pressure on Canadian families just trying to get by. He has more than doubled Trudeau's debt while promising to reduce it at the exact same time. Why does this Prime Minister's promises never match his results, and when will he rein in this spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, it's very odd hearing the Conservatives talk as if somehow we're not talking about Canadians. We're talking about Canadians here, we're talking about their dollars, and we're talking about where they want them invested. And Mr. Speaker, we know loud and clear, time and time again, we have heard from Canadians that they want us to invest in them. And that means things like the groceries and essentials benefits. That means cutting the fuel excise tax. It sounds like they're saying we're putting money into our personal pockets. Mr. Speaker, we're putting money into the pockets of Canadians, and they object to that. We really need to make sure they understand how finances work.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
Speaker, I received an email from a resident of Essex who said that, quote, the Prime Minister stated that life is becoming more affordable, but for many Essex residents, it does not feel like affordability has improved. Instead, this Prime Minister has added $90 billion in new spending, driving up debt, costs and taxes for Canadians. He's just another Liberal. When will the Prime Minister rein in reckless spending for our taxpayer dollars and take real action to reduce the deficit?
Good question. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that member may not know that the International Monetary Fund has actually reaffirmed that Canada has the strongest fiscal position in the G7. We actually have the second largest growing economy, fastest growing economy in the G7. As it relates to the tough decisions government has taken, we have a comprehensive expenditure review that is going to save taxpayers $40 billion over the next 5 years. But, you know, as it relates to spending, part of the large portion of our spending, Mr. Speaker, has actually been on the Canadian Armed Forces. I thought that the Conservatives used to stand for investing in the men and women of our Canadian Armed Forces. We'll stand by them every single day, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Speaker, we know that mental health and physical health are closely connected. Both are equally important for our well-being, especially for athletes competing at the highest levels. Mental health is key to a balanced life and long-term success in sport. Can the Secretary of State for Sport update the House on what our government is doing to support the mental health of national team athletes and coaches? Thank you.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my friend and colleague from Ottawa West Nepean for always supporting Team Canada. We know that support for our athletes on and off the field is absolutely vital, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we're so proud to be investing $6.2 million with our Olympic team, Paralympic team, with the sports networks right across the country to ensure that they have all the resources they need to compete at their best. This investment is going to support exciting programs like Game Plan, Mr. Speaker, and that's going to ensure that our athletes have everything they need on and off the field, and we're so proud of our Team Canada athletes, Mr. Speaker. So, go Canada, go!
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Health Minister's officials revealed the Liberals spent $300 million on the Prescribe IT program with nothing to show for it. The Liberals promised that Prescribe IT would replace fax machines for prescription drugs. But now Prescribe IT is being quietly shut down after less than 5% of all prescriptions went through this program. No one can tell Canadians where the money went. So, Conservatives are calling on the Auditor General to investigate Prescribe IT. Will the Liberals support an investigation, or will they continue their $300 million cover-up?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, listen, the Prescribe IT was launched in 2017. The previous government, after consultations, did so with the provinces and territories. But this program did not see success, and rather than continuing to invest in this program, we decided to stop it. And the opposition members knows very well that we're working closely with the department to get the data with respect to Prescribe IT.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals gave $300 million to Canada Health InfoWave for Prescribe IT. The taxpayer-funded CEO, Michael Green, testified at committee that the Health Infoway Board terminated Prescribe IT. Yet, the health minister claimed it was the Liberals. Officials also revealed the Liberals kept shoveling millions into Prescribe IT even after they knew it was failing. This $300 million scandal is not adding up. If the Liberals have nothing to hide, will they support our motion to call the Auditor General in to investigate Prescribe IT?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. President, so Prescribe IT was always intended to become self-funded over time. Rather than putting money towards a program that people were not using, it was decided to end it. This is how you save taxpayers' money. Thank you, Mr. President. That's right.
The Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Canadians deserve accountability. $300 million was spent on Prescribe IT to replace pharmacy fax machines with nothing to show for it.
Wowza.
Liberal obstruction at committee has prevented Canadians from finding out where the money went. That's enough. We need a full investigation. Will the Minister of Health agree with to our call for the nonpartisan Auditor General of Canada to investigate this $300 million boondoggle?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. President, I would say the Minister of Health is there to support Canadians. And I will tell you, challenges like these highlight the need for our Connected Care for Canadian Act, which will break down silos in the healthcare system. So I invite you to support S5, who will be coming to the House very soon. Thanks.
Please to speak through the chair.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, older Canadians are some of the most engaged members of the Scarborough Agincourt community, whether advocating on affordability issues, volunteering their time, or sharing their wisdom. Seniors in my community are always there to strengthen the neighbourhood. Could the Secretary of State for Seniors tell the House how the federal government is helping seniors across Canada with the rising cost of living, while also promoting initiatives that keep older Canadians active, connected, and thriving in their communities?
Good question. Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
I thank the member for highlighting the incredible contributions that she makes to her community for seniors. I've seen it firsthand. And just last week, I announced over $54 million in funding for the New Horizons for Seniors program that will go to more than 2,600 grassroots programs across the country benefiting seniors. With this investment, organizations like C's Centre in the members' riding will offer digital literacy workshops, cultural events to promote healthy, active aging. Whether it's building digital skills or organizing community meals, we continue to invest across the country, no matter where seniors live.
The Honourable Member for York Durham.
For generations, family farms have fed Canadians and the world. And for generations, those farms have been passed from one family member to the next. And the Liberals shouldn't be making that harder, but that's where we are. If a farm is passed to a child, it's tax deferred. But if a farm is passed to another family member, it's fully taxed. The result, over 57,000 farms have been lost in the last 20 years. And that hurts farming families in my community, like Steve Cooper in Uxbridge, who wants to pass his farm to his nephew, but he can't. So will the Minister of Finance fix the Income Tax Act and make it easier for families to pass on farms to the next generation?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is important for generational farming, Mr. Speaker, and we're fully well aware of it. Mr. Speaker, it's something that through the national policy framework with stakeholders across the country that has been brought up a couple of times, and I'll have further discussions with the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, on the West Coast, commercial fish harvesters, the people actually doing the fishing are being pushed out. Corporate concentration and growing foreign ownership of licenses and quota are driving up costs and draining wealth out of coastal communities. And we don't even know who owns much of this quota because there's no public registry. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, an owner-operator model protects independent fish harvesters and keeps the value in local communities. It's like we're living in two different countries. When will the Liberals fix this and bring in a West Coast owner-operator model, increase transparency, and stop foreign and corporate ownership of our fisheries?
The The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the colleague on the other side for this important question. I have been very clear. I support owner-operator models, and I'm working closely with Indigenous partners and all engaged in the fishery on the West Coast to develop a model, co-develop a model that works for the West Coast and fits the needs of those engaged in the industry. It is important that this natural resource remains closely tied to our rural coastal Indigenous communities.
Alors, ça met fin à la période de questions.
That is the end of oral questions. I think the member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier, has a point of order. Mr. Speaker, it is customary here in the House of Commons that when we wish to distribute a document, there's an agreement between the whips, first of all. Secondly, this is a bilingual country, French and English. I was unpleasantly surprised to receive 2 documents on my table this morning, which were in English alone, and were distributed by a Liberal member. Is this a Liberal Party practice, or is it an accident? Could we tell the person who distributed the documents that they must respect both official languages?
Il incombe
Yes. We do need to distribute material in both official languages. I would remind all members that we have to remember that our institution is bilingual.
Member for Regina Capel on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker,